6 years ago, I couldn't even run 2 miles. Now I'm trying to podium a 50K. And I don't even know if I can do it. Because the truth is, most people would look at this and say, that doesn't make any sense at all. Why would you push your body that far? Why set a goal you might not even reach? But for me, this didn't start with running. It started with a loud mind. I was early in sobriety, trying to figure out life without the things I used to rely on. And I remember that first run, 1.7 miles. I felt like I was dying, and I'm thinking, how am I going to ever run a 5K? But it wasn't just the distance. I felt like I had spent my whole life starting things and never finishing them. I just needed something with a finish line, something I could actually complete. Now fast forward 6 years. I've run ultras. I've failed races, but I've kept showing up. And now I'm chasing a podium, but it's not really about that. It's about who I've had to become just to believe that this is even remotely possible. And if I don't hit it, well, I just keep going until I do. Cue that intro music.
Who says you need to fly to reach the top? Keep beating your block till your feet are hot. Get your head out the sand, join the flock. It's okay to run scared, we enjoy the lie.
Welcome back to the Ostrich Running Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Mraz. No guest today. No Jarrett the Juice Horton. Just me. And I've been sitting on this episode for some time now. Now, it's not because I didn't know what to say, but because I wanted to say it right. Or maybe I just wanted to be ready to say it out loud. Because this one, it's kind of personal. This is an episode where I actually walk through the full story. Not just the highlighted reel version, not the cleaned up version I tell people at races when I ask how I got into ultra running. The real version. That's the one that starts with a 1.7 mile run at an 11-minute pace where I felt like I was going to die on that treadmill. And the story ends, or doesn't really end, with me chasing a podium at a 50K. Now, I've been running for a little over 6 years now. And when I say a little bit over, I mean 1 month over. And when I say that out loud, I don't really fully believe it myself. Because I remember exactly who I was when I started. And I remember thinking, there's no way. There's absolutely no way. So let's go back, all the way back to the beginning. Yeah, I don't have a fancy soundboard, so we're just going to go back. The date, March 11th, 2020. Now, I'll remember that date for a couple of reasons. One, it's the day that the world really started shutting down during COVID, that whole thing. And number two, it's the day that I ran 1.7 miles and I nearly talked myself out of never doing it again. At that point, I was about 6 months sober. 6 months. Yeah. If you know anything about early sobriety, you know that 6 months is really nothing, but it is also an eternity. Kind of crazy how that works out, right? You're still figuring out who you are without substances. What do you do with your time? What do you do with your hands? What do you do when everything gets loud inside your head and you just can't? You can't turn it off the way you used to. Well, my mind was loud. That is the only way I know how to describe it. There were multiple voices, and I don't mean it in a scary way, but kind of is scary at times. I just mean that there was this constant noise and chatter, thoughts about the past, thoughts about the future, fear, doubt, anger, all of it at the same time. And my daughter was a few weeks away from being born. And honestly, that changed everything. I had my son, You know, you look at this person, this tiny person, and you feel this love you weren't prepared for. But underneath that love, at least for me, there was terror because I knew who I had been and I didn't want to go back there. I was having nightmares about the military, nightmares about relapsing. That was the hardest. Waking up in a cold sweat, convinced that I had thrown away everything that I'd worked for. And I swear that it was really happening. And then realizing it hadn't. Not yet anyway. And honestly, that not yet feeling, it's pretty heavy. Follows you around. So I went out and I started running. In addition to that, I also saw a picture of me jumping in a pool, and sobriety likes to add on a few pounds, but in a healthy way, I guess, or a non-healthy way. I don't know. It scared me. Either way, I was out there running scared, to say the least. But not because I wanted to, not because I had some big vision of being a runner where on my vision board it was ultra marathoner, running brand owner. No. That was never even the case. I just really needed something with a finish line. That's it. That was really the whole reason. See, sobriety doesn't have a finish line. It's forever by design. And that's the point. When you're early in recovery, forever is a terrifying word. You can't see the end of it. You can't plan for it. You can't even train for it and then cross the tape and it's done. I just started going back to school and education felt the same way. Years away. An open-ended goal. Life felt open-ended. But I needed something that I could start and finish. Even if it was 1.7 miles. Even if I felt like I was dying. Now, before we get into this next segment, my first 5K, let's hear from our sponsors, us, Ostrich Running. Look, I've tried every electrolyte product out there, the super sugary ones, the ones with the gimmick salt, the tablets that take forever to dissolve. On a lot of these, they mess my stomach up. But Ostrich Salt, it's different. Simple. Just pure electrolytes, sodium, potassium, and magnesium malate in the ratio your body actually needs when you're sweating through mile 30, 50, or 80. I created this because I needed it. When I was out at Kodiak 100 running through the night, cramping was not an option. When you're managing 100 miles, you can't afford to bonk because your electrolytes are off. So I made something that works. No artificial flavors, no BS, just quality ingredients. And here's the thing, whether you're running ultras or you're just trying to get through a hot 10K without cramping, your body needs electrolytes. That's not negotiable. Now head to ostrichrunning.com and grab some electrolytes today. Use code SALTY6 to try your own 6-pack for $6. All right, welcome back. We're getting into it now. The first 5K. Well, I remember thinking, how am I going to run a 5K? Like genuinely, I could not figure out how that was even possible. It's crazy to think about that now. 3.1 miles felt like a completely different universe than what I had just done. It was double, almost double what I've been working on a treadmill at, dying. But I still went back out the next day. The next day after that, I don't really remember exactly. I just kept going. And a few weeks later, I ran that 5K. It was the Aloha 5K in Long Beach. My wife and I got little hula medals. But, you know, there was something that I didn't expect. I didn't really feel done. Kind of felt this high. You know, I felt good, but I didn't feel satisfied. I thought I would. I thought crossing that finish line in my little 5K route would feel like closure, like, all right, we did good. But instead, I just thought, can I do more? That question, can I do more? Oh, that question changed my life. Because it wasn't really about running, not at that point. It was about identity. My whole life, I had built this story about myself, that I was someone who couldn't finish what he started, that I would get close, get almost there, and then something would pull me back. Substances, fear, whatever. I was really good at self-sabotaging my life at certain points. And you find that commonly in an addict's world. But running, that was me starting to quietly argue back with that story. I started to see people run marathons, and I remember thinking, this is insane. That is 26.2 miles. I can't do 26.2 miles. Nobody I know does 26.2 miles. And then I did one. And after I finished, I started to see people that did 2 marathons, 3, 4 marathons in a row, like in a single event. And I thought, oh my gosh, that is insane. That's not possible. You see the pattern here? Every time I said something was impossible, my body kept showing up and saying, are you sure? So I signed up for a 50-miler. And you know what? I failed. I didn't finish. I dropped out. And I remember that feeling of that. It wasn't really like shame exactly, but something close to it, where that old voice started to creep itself back into my life. And it said something like really scary, right? This is what you do. You don't finish things. Here we go again. Oh man. And it shook me. It still kind of makes me shudder a little bit thinking about that first DNF, because that was really the first time I pushed and challenged myself to something beyond what I think I was even ready for at that point. So when I failed it like shook me, right? But something was different this time. And I told myself I was coming back. And you know what? I signed up for another 50-miler. And you know what? I failed that again. Yeah, I finished the 50-mile distance, but it took me so long that I missed the cutoff. And the point that I was at, the only place to go was the finish line after everybody had packed it all up. First time doing 50 miles was a DNF. Oh my gosh. Rocked me to the core. But you know what? I told myself I was coming back. And I did. I signed up for that Snow Moon just before Aravapia took over that race. And I gave it everything I had. And I finally finished it. Bleeding from my thighs, feet, toenails all tore up, body hurting. Everything was in pain, but I did it. And then I set my sights on 100 miles. 100 miles. And I don't think people fully understand what that means. It's not just a long run. It's not a hard day. It is a full test of everything. Your mind, your body, your prep, your crew, your nutrition, your ability to keep moving when every single part of you is screaming, stop. And it tests your soul. And you know what? That first attempt, I failed that too. My gosh. And it took me 2 more years before I could even finally finish that distance. 2 years. During those 2 years, most of you know I was in school getting my MBA, being a dad, figuring out what kind of person I wanted to be, training through all of it. But I'll tell you what, somewhere in those 2 years, in all of that chaos, exhaustion, and grinding, I started to think of myself as a runner. Not just someone who runs, an actual runner. That's a whole different thing. Now let's hear from our next sponsor, Alethea Run. We spend so much time tracking pace, distance, heart rate, and all these external metrics, but we don't track the thing that actually matters most, how we're moving. Alethea is a sensor that clips to your waistband and tracks the force your body experiences when you run. Not just you're running 8-minute miles, but how your body is actually absorbing impact. Whether you're braking too much, whether one leg is doing more work than the other. They call it a force portrait. And when I first saw mine, it was like, damn, this is what's actually happening when I run. This is where I'm inefficient. This is where I'm setting myself up for injury. And here's why this matters. Most running injuries don't just happen. They build over time because of the imbalances and inefficiencies we can't see. You're overstriding. You're landing too hard on one side. Your form is breaking down in ways you don't notice until something hurts. Alethea catches that before it becomes a problem. You get personalized feedback after every run. It tells you exactly what to work on, not generic advice, but your specific issues based on your unique biomechanics. I'm not saying this lightly. If you're serious about running long term, this is the tool you need, because staying healthy is how you keep showing up. Head to alethea.run and use promo code RUNSCARED10 today. All right, welcome back. Now the shift, right? There was a specific moment in that training block for my last 100 where I was running a 50K as a training run, O'Neill Park 50K to be exact. And I wasn't racing it. My coach had told me that I could start running a little bit faster on the back half. So I wasn't there to compete. I was really just using it as a long training day, really. And I crossed that finish line in about 11th or 12th place. You have to look it up on the ultra sign-up results, but I think it was 11th or 12th. But I didn't go out there trying to get a high podium spot. I didn't know I was even going to be in that close to top 10 area, right? And I looked around, I'm like, oh my gosh, did that just happen? And when it settled in, I had this thought I really never had before. What if I could actually push my speed? What if I could actually compete? Not just finish, not just survive, but compete. Because all of these races, I've been going out to just finish a distance, get out there and finish this distance. And now I'm at a point where I have confidence in my running ability, but a whole new level has been unlocked. Like, what does it feel like to push this God-given body to its extreme limits? And I'll tell you what, it's been tough. I've pushed my body to paces that I never even think I ran when I was in my prime. As like a kid in high school, I don't think I even hit these paces at that point. And, you know, right now, I'm 38, almost 39. And I know what people think when a 38-year-old says they want a podium at a 50K. I know that there's some raised eyebrows, the polite encouragement that kind of sounds like doubt. Oh yeah, well, you know, you give it your best shot. You know, you see what you can do. But here's what I also know. There are elite runners out there, ultra runners out there who didn't even start until their 30s, who found their peak performance later, who got better with age because ultra running rewards experience and grit and consistency more than it rewards raw youth. And I want to know if that's me. I genuinely want to know. Not because I need to prove something to someone else, but because I want to know what my body is capable of. That is a new feeling, by the way. The version of me from 6 years ago wasn't curious about his potential. He was just trying to survive. He was just trying to get through the day without making everything worse. Now, I wake up curious. That's not nothing. So, what is this really about? I want to be honest about this podium goal, right? It might not. I might train everything right, do everything I'm supposed to do, show up on race day and still not podium. Yeah, that's very believable reality. It's almost expecting. Maybe I'm just trying to soften the blow early, right? But that's how competition works, right? There are people out there who are better than me right now. They've been doing this longer. They're just built different. And I'm okay with that. Because that is not actually the point. The point is this person I'm becoming in the process of trying. I'm going to say that again because I think it does get lost. The point is who I'm becoming. Not who I'll be when I cross the finish line in first, second, or third place. Not the version of me that gets a trophy or a buckle or whatever. The version of me that gets up early in the morning, even when I don't want to, that runs when I'm tired, that keeps going when the training cycle is brutal and life is messy and everything feels hard. That guy is the goal. I've talked about this with Jarrett, that I think all the emotions that come out at the end of a race is all the work that you've put into that race leading to that moment. And it's over. But all those days that you were tired, all of those days that you didn't want to, led to that finish line. And sometimes it's even harder when all of those days still took place and you didn't get to the goal, because then that makes you question yourself. But you know what? Today, I still deal with PTSD. I want to be clear about that. Running didn't fix it. Sobriety didn't fix my problems. Nothing fixes everything exactly, right? But I have an outlet now. And I also want to be transparent on that. All of these things have set me up to find a way to heal. I still think if you have PTSD issues, you need to talk to somebody. You need to get out there. You can't just rely on a training cycle to distract you from whatever internal pain you may have. Get out there and talk to your community, talk to professionals, give yourself the opportunity and reward yourself with a nice outlet of pushing your own limits. Because when my mind gets loud, and yes, it still gets loud, I know what to do with it. I know where to put it. I lace up and I go. Somewhere out on the trail, somewhere in the miles, it's like all of these loud thoughts decide to line up and get in line and go one by one in this beautiful, respectful thought line. And it gets quieter. And I can really just take on each thought one moment at a time. And to me, that is worth everything. So I've been thinking about this time of 6 years, right? A lot lately. 6 years. When I was standing on that treadmill in Garden Grove, March of 2020, barely even breathing after 1.7 miles. 6 years then felt like an eternity, like some impossible distance in the future I couldn't even picture. Now, it feels like it went by in an instant. That's also a strange thing to sit with, because it means that the next 6 years are going to probably feel the exact same way. They're going to pass whether I'm putting in the work or not, whether I'm showing up or not. Time moves. The only question is, what am I going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? I'm not trying to inspire you right now. I genuinely hate the way that sounds. I'm just thinking out loud about my own life, about the guy I was and the guy I'm becoming. So what's changed in me is, the real change, the one that matters, it's been consistency, not talent, not all of the collegiate running that I had under my belt, which I have none. That is not what has got me here. It's not some gift. It's been consistency. Showing up when it's inconvenient, when I'm tired, when the conditions aren't right, when my brain is loud and my legs are heavy and part of me wants to bail, showing up anyway. That's it. That's the whole secret. And I know it sounds simple when I say it like that, and it's not really simple to actually do because it takes a ton of work, right? But it really is that boring. It really is just do the thing again, tomorrow, again, over and over for 6, 8, 10, 12 years. And one day you look up and you're someone you don't fully recognize, and in a good way. So I look back at that March of 2020, and I really can't believe that I am here. I can't believe that I'm the person who's ran 100 miles. I can't believe I'm the person who's building a brand around running. I can't believe I'm the person who went from hiding from himself to slowly, imperfectly becoming someone I am actually somewhat proud of. And I'm not done. That's the thing. I am not done. And I want you all to know this for a reason, right? I started this podcast because I wanted to build a community for people who run, for people who don't run, but maybe want to, for people who are in the middle of becoming something and don't really have a word for it yet. That's what I'm doing here. I want you all to look at this story and pull what you can from it. From my experience, I've always been taught this when I'm in a meeting. Experience, strength, and hope. I've given you my experience. I've let you all know what I've gone through because you're probably going through it. You've probably had gone through it at some point in your life. Showing you the strength that it took to overcome these challenges, the consistency, the strength to be present, to push yourself, right? And then the hope. The hope is that I show you that you can do it as well. We all have our different goals. We all have our different challenges. We all have different lives, but we're all in this world together. We all need to uplift each other together. And that's Ostrich Running. Run scared. That phrase, run scared, means something specific to me. It means doing it anyway. You show up, you're scared. Show up to that training run, you're scared. You do it anyway. You make a decision to change your life for the better, stepping outside of a circle that you've never really experienced, and it scares you, but you do it anyway. You decide to take on that distance, that new job, that new education goal, trying something new, and it scares you, but you do it anyway. Doing it while you're afraid, while you're uncertain, while the voice in your head is telling you it's not going to work. You're not built for this. You don't deserve this. Well, guess what? You do it anyway. Not because you're fearless, but because the running matters more than the fear. The action matters more than the fear. From 1.7 miles to chasing a podium. 6 years. A lot of miles. A lot of mornings. A lot of moments where I almost didn't go. I'm grateful for every single one of them. Even the hard ones, especially the hard ones. And I'm grateful for all of you, the community that's around me, uplifting me every day, cheering this brand on, sending these messages, tagging us. All of this is felt. And that's what it's about. A community. We're here. We're here for each other. I want to thank you all for listening in week after week, day after day. People who are supporting the brand, who are, buying Ostrich Salt, buying a hat. To me, that's like just a bonus, right? In the end, I want people to just see this brand and feel inspired, right? And I appreciate you all. I'm Nick Miraz, and this is the Ostrich Running Podcast. Cue that outro music.
Who says you need to fly to reach the top? Keep beating your block till your feet are hot. Get your head out the sand, join the flock. It's okay to run scared, we enjoy the lie. I'm a nod kid, like an ostrich. I got a pod, kids, here's a topic. Blaze your own trail, don't be cautious. 2 birds, 1 stone's how I rock it. Can't make an omelet without breaking a shell. But they say grew up, now I'm raising hell. Haters gonna hate, yeah, they pray and you fail. So put in the work, whether pavement or trail. The grades fell down, but they got to their feet. Run your own race, put this pod on repeat. Shake your tail feather, keep nodding your beaks. Ostrich gang, or you're not my peeps. Who says you need to fly to reach the top?